It's great to see you all and excited to delve into some soccer today. I would like to welcome our head coaches, Adam Reeves, the head men's coach, Ed Moore, the head women's coach, and also our student athletes, Avery Whipple, who's a sophomore from Corvallis, Oregon for the men, and Erin Brown, who's a sophomore from Novato, California for the women. It's great to have you all here. I'm going to start with the coaches, and then I'm going to ask the same question, not really a question, but kind of a status update, I guess, if you will, for the student athletes. But I'll start with Coach Reeves. What's it like to be in this time right now where, you know, your fall season is postponed? There's so much that's kind of in limbo. You're trying to figure out, you know, is it going to break left? Is it going to break right? Which way are we going? What's it like for you right now to be in this moment?
Yeah, the new normal definitely keeps you on your toes, you know, from dating back to spring when the student athletes or all the students here were on spring break and then asked to leave, to looking forward and trying to potentially prepare for a season, not really sure. As conferences started to delay, you're trying to keep your guys motivated and as a WCC postponed to September, but didn't completely get rid of the fall season. And then obviously once they did, so now it's just about looking forward and trying to see the light, hopefully at the end of the tunnel here. And with the news, the NCAA has decided to have our championships in the spring. It gives the guys a great light to look forward to, and hopefully getting back on campus and beginning to train in some phase of training. But it's obviously different. You know, campus is different. The way the student athletes are living is much different. Got some guys moved in finally to the dorms and they're isolated into their own individual dorm room and they can't have any guests, et cetera, et cetera. So it'll take some getting used to, but at the same time, I think we can use it to focus on some of our needs and our strengths, which is focusing on academics rather than being distracted with who knows what else in this time, and just preparing mentally for what's next, and that's hopefully training and then a spring season. So it's definitely been different. It's been frustrating for everybody. We're not the only ones involved, and as I talk to colleagues throughout the country, we're all in it together, trying to support our student athletes as best we can.
That's an interesting point about academics, and I'm definitely going to delve deep into that in a little bit. But Ed, I want to go to you next with this. What's it like for you to be in this moment right now?
I think Adam hit it on the head. I mean, I think it's been frustrating, I think, for everybody. And I mean, if it's frustrating for us as coaches and administrators and people that are associated with the university at the higher levels, it's got to be unbelievably frustrating for the players and the student athletes across the country. I think I think it's been challenging to keep everybody motivated, and I think there have been plans and then setbacks and then new dates or proposals and then setbacks and then ultimately cancellations. And so it's just been the new norm is being comfortable, being uncomfortable, maybe sitting in the unknown for a little bit. So I think it's been challenging to keep everybody motivated, but I think at least for our group, we've done a really good job. We've obviously, like everybody else, we're utilizing Zoom, and we're doing everything from reading books together to small group meetings to team meetings to you name it. So I know our group's done a great job of staying positive and staying motivated and still putting in the work, finding ways to put in the work. But for sure, it's challenging. But at the end of the day, I mean, we keep telling our players there are certain things that are in our control and certain things that are not. And I think it's has never been more true than, these last few months and this whole year is you can only control what you can control. So I think spending time chasing your tail or being frustrated, sometimes it's just not going to get you anywhere. It's what you do with that frustration, or it's what you do with these setbacks that we keep talking to our team about. And I think at least for our group, I think there's some ways that we're going to come out a little bit ahead and we will have grown as a team. So there are always some positives, but it's very challenging. But it's good to have light at the end of the tunnel, like Adam said, and know what we're kind of working for now, the next goal.
I know the dynamic is going to be different for the student athletes, and I'm going to ask them the same thing right now. By the way, I don't know if I said it before. They're both sophomores. Avery, first of all, are you you're from Corvallis? Are you in Corvallis right now, or have you come back to Stockton?
No, I'm back in Stockton. I drove back last Saturday.
And how'd that go for you? Was it weird to drive back and to leave Corvallis, which is where I'm sure you spent a lot of time?
No, with this being the second year, I've got kind of the second home here down in Stockton, so it wasn't super strange. That the strangest part was just getting back into town and not really being able to hang out with anybody. I got back and loaded my stuff into my apartment, and then I just sat here by myself because obviously the closest you can get to anybody is 6 feet, so that was probably got to be the strangest part for me.
Yeah, completely different college experience than what it should be. But what's it like for you to be, I guess starting this new year and to be in a weird spot as we all are?
Yeah, it's been frustrating. I know that we were supposed to start preseason around the beginning of August, and that's always been the best time of the year because you get here, you're on campus with your teammates, you're getting to know the new guys, they're getting to know you. There's no school. You're just training, playing the sport you love to play with your buddies. And so that's something I know I personally always look forward to. I'm sure the other guys on the team look forward to that. And with that always having gotten postponed, first it was going to be August 1st, then the 10th, then the 17th, and then finally we got here around the 22nd. So it was just frustrating that getting pushed back and pushed back. So personal motivation was really important there. From a athletic standpoint, I know coach told us something right when we left, when they kicked us off campus in the spring, and he said that every single other student athlete in the nation is dealing with this too. So what's going to be the driving force to whether or not we have a good season, which is now going to be in the spring, is who takes those opportunities to personally motivate yourself and get out and train, because you're not training as a team. You don't have your coach yelling at you to sprint that extra 10 yards or go train an extra half an hour every now and then. So I think personal motivation has been really important. And as far as I'm aware, I think Pacific men's soccer has been nailing it.
Yeah, I'm going to get into the training here too shortly. But I want to get to Erin and ask how you're doing, Erin. I mentioned you're from Novato. Are you in Novato right now? Have you come back to Stockton? And how's your quarantine gone?
I am in Stockton currently. I'm very blessed. I live with 3 of my teammates, so off campus.
Nice.
So I'm very excited to get to navigate the craziness of social distancing and COVID times with them. So it's been fun.
I'm going to get to Ed here for a moment. And part of the reason I'm going to get to Ed first is because he's one of the newcomers of Ed and Adam. He's the newest. What's the immediate focus for you, Ed, when you guys get back together? It's your first year as the head coach at Pacific Women's Soccer. You have so much on your plate as far as
It froze.
What's that?
Oh no.
Is that Erin? Are you saying something?
Am I frozen on your guys's?
Yeah, she's frozen.
Oh, we can hear.
But yeah,
I can hear you.
I can kind of hear. I don't know if she was giving you a shout out or what, but when she reconnects, we're gonna have her say whatever she had to say.
Yeah, we'll let her buzz back in.
But as your first year as a head coach, so much on your plate as far as implementing a culture, getting a feel for your roster, et cetera, et cetera. What's the first order of business for you, and what's going to be your immediate focus when you can get back together with your girls?
Yeah, I think you touched on a big one right away, was just trying to, because being the one new person, I think the tendency that some new coaches that I've spoken with, they come in and they want to try to start, immediately putting their own stamp on everything, right? And sometimes they want to come in and say, well, this is my way and I want to establish my rules and my culture and my direction. And while that's really, really important, I think my philosophy is just a little bit different in that I wanted to try to take a little bit of time to assess, right? And maybe not everything is always broken when you get a chance to come into a new program. There are a lot of coaches that try to take some time. I decided that I would try to do that and try to have the players both tell me, show me what their program is about and what this program is about, and what traditions they have and what positive aspects that they really want to hang on to. And then once I could kind of get that period of assessment done, then I could start to take a look and say, okay, how do I want to come in and start to facilitate some change in what they want to change, and how can we grow what's going really.
Uh-oh. Well, We're 2 for 2 in the freezing.
Now,
But oh,
shoot.
is
How
he
about-
back?
how
He's
about
back.
now?
He's back. Here he is.
So I think where I left off is, if I'm still alive, is that we wanted to try to assess where we were, some things that we could keep, some things that we could grow that were going really well, and then listen to the players and find out get feedback from them, and what are some things that they really want to do differently. And one of the first things that I think we challenged the players with once I got to assess a little bit was the team culture. And they said they wanted to take this opportunity to hit reset and to delve a little bit deeper into what they wanted to move forward, what they wanted to be about, we came up with a new set of values, which I actually have on this side. On my screensaver, one of the players made a new set of these are our new kind of core values as a program.
Seeing that
So
looks
I think
pretty
that's
fierce.
Oh man, it's like, I don't know, back in the day it's like lasers coming out of the Power Cat's eyes. It's unbelievable. But I've been really proud of the players and the job they've done, particularly in that department, because they took it upon themselves to meet as team, small group, pairs. I mean, you name it. They just put a lot of work that we would ordinarily be tied up on the field doing, which is also important. But really moving this team culture along was very important. And I think it was a chance for me to listen to what they wanted. And as a coach, I want to build this and I want this to be in their image. So they had a great opportunity to tell me what image they wanted and what they wanted to move towards. So for me, that was really important. That was one of the first orders of business, was for them to tell me, to have them tell me what direction they wanted to go and what we could hold them accountable for in the future. So I thought that was a cool part, and we've made a lot of strides in that area.
Erin, you're back, right?
I'm back. So sorry about that.
Women's soccer, we got like Olaf and Elsa here, the Frozen twins.
Yeah, exactly.
Bad Disney joke. I'm sorry. Did you want to give Ed a shout out, by the way? You froze up when you were saying something, and you're back now. So
yeah. I was just going to say, Ed kind of touched on it. Control what you can control. It's been like a really big part of the books we've read and all the team meetings. Like, that's what we've gotten out of consistently, a lot of them. So we know soccer is going to be back. We don't know when, but we know they can't keep pushing it back for the rest of our lives. So we're going to get to play one day. And if we just focus on controlling what we can control now on the field, building these relationships with each other, we know we're going to be in a good spot and be able to keep building on the work of taking our program in the new direction that we all decided we wanted to take it. So
it seems like, as far as culture creation, I think from what Ed says, he really wants to empower you and your teammates to build the culture that you want to have. Can you speak to what you want that culture to be?
Yeah. So as a team, we kind of decided we're just a group of people who really love being together, and we want that to reflect on the field. We want to show everyone that we do put in the hard work, and we're ready to take this program, I think, to new levels and new goals. And we're all really excited to be here, and we want to put Pacific on the map, I think, a little bit. So in the soccer world, at least on the women's side. So
for sure. Adam, can you kind of relate to some of what Ed is going through in his first year taking over a program, you having just kind of done that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, although I'm a little bit ahead of him, not much in regards to being hired so late in July and then jumping straight into the season. So as I've mentioned before, I was looking forward to the spring and building that foundation and culture, at which I thought we were off to a good start until early March. So we're not far off, but you know, the group that's returning, I think, is a great group. We were able to bring 2 mid-year guys in that we were able to hit the ground running with in January, so that they got a little taste of it, and now it'll be about incorporating the group that's coming in, the 8 that are coming in right now.
Avery, I want to bounce to you. We're talking about culture on the women's side. What's your team's culture like right now?
We're all a great group of guys. We love hanging out with each other. In terms of on the field, I think there's 2 things that we really focused on. And you can win a game by either being the better team out there, or being the harder worker team. And I think as a team, we personally try to achieve both of them, and that way we can ensure both. And so in practice, everything's competitive. Nothing's lighthearted. Obviously, when we get off the field, we're best buds. But when we're against each other in practice, it's competitive, and it's a war out there. So I think our culture, the biggest thing is just we're competitors. And by doing that in practice, we become a better team. And by doing that on the field, we outwork the other team.
There's a core nucleus of you guys as freshmen. Kai, Emery, Derek, you saw significant playing time as freshmen. In what ways did you grow in your freshman year, and in what ways do you think that your nucleus can continue to grow moving forward?
Personally, I learned a lot of humility my freshman year. I came in having been a star high school player for many years, and obviously coming into a D1 program, you don't come in as a freshman expecting to be that star. And so the first part of the season, I really learned humility. I learned off of the older players ahead of me, Silos, Jonathan Rico, all them. So that was really important for me. And in terms of the nucleus, I mean, we can only go up. I mean, Emery Rappaport, phenomenal center half. Derek and Kai Lang, both outstanding goal scorers. You know what you're going to get from them. They'll step onto the field, and if they have a half second to shoot, they're going to shoot. So I think, I mean, we form a really nice spine up the middle of the field, and if we can continue our relationships there, then Pacific has got good things coming to it. Yeah,
you had a great high school career, and so did Erin. Erin at Nevada High School, 22 career goals, 25 assists, all-league honorable mention as a freshman. Were you confident from an early age that you'd be able to go right from high school to a Division I program?
It's always been the goal. I think every little girl steps onto the field and they just want to have fun, and then you start to get into middle school and high school and you think, maybe I can do this in college, maybe I can live my dreams a little bit. So I had some really great club coaches and really great mentors in my life that helped me get here, and my family has always been the most supportive people ever. So if it was up to a support system, then I would always go D1. But there are some times I think we all have a little bit of doubts in our mind, but if you keep working through those, I at least found that it pays off in the end. So
sure,
very happy with where I am.
Well, you not only got to play Division I right out of high school, you appeared in all 19 matches for Pacific as a freshman. You started 3 of them. How important was it for you to be able to join a program where you could be in the fold right away and play as much as you did? Because there are a lot of high school athletes that will go Division I and they'll have to sit, but how important was it for you to go to a program where you could immediately make an impact?
It was very important for me. It's one of the things in my search for schools that I really highlighted I wanted to do. Didn't make as much of an impact as I wanted to my freshman year. I think every one of us had little things in our mind that we could have done better and wanted to do better. But I think last year was a very good year for me, and it just motivated me even more to, when we get to play, just make more of an impact, more of a leadership role, inspire my teammates more, inspire myself more. So really excited for what's to come.
Ed, I know you didn't recruit Erin, but just in talking with her, I'd imagine you want to recruit more Erins. You want to recruit that type of student athlete. Can you touch on the type of student athlete that you want to be, the center of your program?
Yeah, absolutely. We always tease the players. We try to have real conversations with them as coaches about what we're looking for and kind of our philosophy. And we actually used Erin as an example, I think, and we don't want to recruit another Erin, right? We want to recruit Erin 2.0. But in terms of what Erin brings daily to this program, I mean, she is a team leader. There's no question. And what she brings on the field is she's dependable. She's reliable. What she's going to bring effort-wise and energy-wise every day, whether you'd never be able to tell whether she's having a good day outside of soccer or a bad day. She's very consistent. She challenges her teammates in a good way all the time to be better and to do better, and she holds herself to a high standard. And I think her versatility is what sets her apart. She's very good. Obviously, she can score goals, but she can also facilitate with her passing and her vision. So I think not only on the field, but what helps set Erin apart is what she does and how she is with her teammates and what she does off the field. She's a tremendous student as well. I think our players, our core, what was it, somewhere around a 3.5 team GPA. So we've got a great group of truly student.
Sorry.
There you go. Thank you, Erin. I appreciate it. 3.62. So great group of student athletes in every sense of the word. And what Erin does from an energy and I think Avery touched on it. I mean, a lot of this can be just at times it's not hard work doesn't guarantee you everything, but it's a great place to start. Without that, you're going to be severely lacking. So what Erin does with her work rate and way she inspires her teammates with her energy and effort and her commitment and her steadfastness is just amazing. It's all you could ask for.
And I'm sure, and I'm going to go to Adam, I'm sure what we just said about Erin, Adam, you can apply that to Avery. I mean, I'm sure you want a group of guys on your squad like Avery.
Yeah, you want to instill in them, we try and instill that we need to do everything right all the time, and I think Avery is that character, not just on the field, but from the classroom and socially and being a member of this specific community. It's important. Avery's obviously gone above and beyond with his academics and with his involvement in this community. But everybody comes from different backgrounds. Everybody takes different times to figure it out, and it's our job as coaches to mentor them to hopefully in their 4 years here be able to send them off into the real world and be successful. So and that's the lessons they learn on the field, from the hard work and the drive and the accountability to doing the same thing in the classroom, to doing the same thing with their loved ones and et cetera, et cetera. So Avery's done a great job so far, and he lives up to the word of student athlete, definitely.
Adam, I'm going to keep it with you. Finally, there's a majority of players have moved into dorms, and you guys are waiting for approval to start training. Is there an ideal scenario in your mind to get training started? And if so, if you could script it, what would it look like?
Yeah, you got to ask the big boss that question. Hopefully she has some good news for us this week.
We had Janet on last week, but I mean, if you have as much you have as much insight as to what might work as Janet. I mean, the coaches are in the nitty gritty too. So if you could draw it up in your mind, not saying it would be, it would be gospel, but what would it look like in your mind?
Sure. First and foremost, we're still waiting on a few guys. Soccer being the global game it is, we have a few guys that are still spread out across the globe. So ensuring they're safe, either return to campus as we have some returners, or their safe arrival for a few of our new guys. We had a number as we spoke about come in this past weekend. A couple two of them from Spain come in Friday. Mamoru and Kai come in not too long after from Japan. We have another new kid who's from the UK, but he's right now in quarantine in North Carolina, as through contract tracing, it was just best for him to quarantine there. So making sure they all arrive safely and figure out the new normal in regards to the academic side of things and getting them comfortable. And then training will come. Luckily, we'll have an extended training camp, so to speak. And we're going to take it slow. Everybody's been a little bit different, as Avery spoke about. I tried to hammer home to them the importance of being disciplined and self-motivated. And that's a life goal as well, but through the last 6 months of time, what are they doing to better enhance their soccer capabilities, from a fitness perspective to a strength perspective, to a technical perspective. And then finally, with the delay in seasons, we've had like a plethora of soccer on TV over the last 4 to 6 weeks. So watching the game and learning from the best players in the world. So we'll take it slow, making sure they have a good fitness component, a base to them. We'll probably start with some social distance training, give them different ideas that we can do individually, and then hopefully we can open up through different phases here throughout the fall, where we can actually compete against each other and prepare for a spring season.
Avery, what was training like for you? And what was the situation in Corvallis? Like, were the gyms open? What could you do? What couldn't you do? And what was it like the last few months trying to stay as much in soccer shape as you could?
Yeah. Luckily for me, the summer team I was going to play for in the USL2 league, OVF Alliance, I think it's called. Pretty sure they recently changed their name, which is why I'm uncertain. They were continuing to run practices. They had gotten Oregon State's approval to do it, and there was loads of mandates. Like the first 2 weeks, it was non-contact, and after that, you had to do hand sanitizer. We couldn't touch the balls with our hands. We weren't allowed to pick up cones for the coaches. But luckily I had that. So I practiced with that team twice a week throughout the spring that we missed on campus, and then during the summer.
So there were really no handballs, you're telling me?
Yeah, no handballs allowed.
Literally.
And then our fitness coach, Thorne Bradley, mailed us out fitness packets and calisthenic exercises that we can do without weights and stuff like that. So that was a big help. Because I mean, it's one thing telling yourself that, oh, okay, I'm going to go on a 2-mile run this time. But we had actual exercises that Thor had planned out for us that he guaranteed would put us in soccer shape, which is different than just going on a run. You got to do sprints, acceleration, agility, stuff like that. So those are really helpful. Yeah.
Erin, what about you with training?
We were on a pretty strict shelter in place where I was at, so it was a lot of sprinting in the street. Some of my neighbors would come out and like cheer me on. Don't think they really knew what I was doing, but yeah, it was a lot of sprinting in the streets, jumping fences, trying to find anyone I know to come and train with me. I'm very blessed. My older sister actually plays Division III soccer, so she was out there with me, kicking balls and doing the best we can with what we had. And I think that's just a big theme of everyone's pandemic issues, just doing the best with what you have. So it was a different way to train, for sure.
I can only imagine. I know it was an unconventional freshman year of college for both of you, and I'll keep it with Erin and then go back to Avery. But what was your Pacific experience? What's it been like so far? And I'm saying this knowing that it's going to be through the prism of COVID-19.
Okay. I am so very thankful for my Pacific. There are really no words, I think, to describe like the friends I've made here and the connections I've made here. And it's just a very special place. And I think that was part of what we wanted to contribute in our team culture, like how special this place is and what a Pacific person really is. We wanted to replicate that in our soccer as well. So it was a great experience, and I can't wait for year 2.
Avery?
Yeah, it's been a phenomenal experience for me so far. We're guys that we don't just hang out on the field. If you see us anywhere outside of campus, we'll be at the UC eating meals together, up at the Lair, enjoying karaoke nights, trying to get each other up on stage to laugh at each other. So it was really disappointing in the spring to be sent home early, because as much as I love my family, I was really enjoying my time here and looking forward to finishing the spring season. So it's great to be back, and I'm excited to keep going.
Cool. I'm going to start with Adam on this, and then I'm going to go to Ed with the same thing. But give us some insight as to what the NCAA ruled as far as another year of eligibility for players and how that impacts you and the way you have to plan moving forward. I'm going to start with Adam, and then I'm going to go to Ed.
Yeah, good question. We had a team Zoom call this morning just to kick off the year and kind of go over some academic protocols, and we touched on the athletic side too. The NCAA, has granted everybody an extra year on top of being able to play this year. So, as the student athletes mentioned, I think it's a great place, and I'm going to try and convince this core to stick around as long as possible, as long as the NCAA allows us. Here in the athletic department, it takes a village to raise these guys and gals, and so I'll rely heavily on some of the people within the department. I think Wendy does a great job and Holly does a great job, and so we'll get with them and see the best route forward. But as I mentioned to the players today, it'll be an individual conversation between myself and them in regards to their athletic goals, in regards to their academic goals, in regards to their professional goals. Avery's a perfect example of somebody who has his sights set, has the bar set extremely high in regards to what he wants to do professionally. And so I don't know if he'll be around longer than 4 years. As I tried to subtly hint today on our Zoom call to Avery, life doesn't always go in a straight line as we plan. Sometimes we got to veer left or veer right, and this might be an opportunity for Avery to veer one of those directions and stick around a little longer than he had originally planned. But again, the challenge will be with the older guys, the seniors and juniors, as we being a fall sport, we try and put guys on a 3.5-year plan from an academic standpoint, where they can come in and they can graduate in December of their senior year, right as they're finishing up their athletic eligibility. So now if we need to extend them potentially a whole nother year or beyond, how do we manage that? What does that look like for the recruiting class of 21 and 22 and beyond? So there'll definitely be a juggling circus going on here in regards to the financial side of things and the roster management side of things. But having this group around as long as possible will be great for us.
Ed, same question to you.
Yeah, very similar, Adam. I think we have to look at this thing on a case-by-case basis and a year-by-year basis. I think there are a couple of different things that jump out at us, and talking with some of our players, some of our seniors already, is that I think the danger is just making a bunch of assumptions without having these conversations. And that happens both ways. You hear it already across the country. And there are some players that are just like, hey, I assume that, whatever aid I'm on is going to be the aid, and I'm going to get an extra year, and with it comes my money. And, there's no worries, or there's very little thought about what happens with classes and academic progress. And, and then coaches assume maybe that the players automatically want to return. But like Adam just touched on, I think everyone, especially those that Adam mentioned, the juniors and seniors, they're kind of already down their path. They're pretty well committed to certain degree requirements, and they've set up what they want to do post-grad stuff, post-graduation. And so I think you have to have a lot of individual conversations and manage the expectations and the information, and to be upfront from early on to make sure you don't get crossed up with players or with administration, making sure that the budget moves forward. And
Come on, Ed. I know you can make it through. There we go.
Am I back?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
perfect.
You're good.
So I just think not making assumptions on either end, from player to coach or from coach to players, managing each individual and coming up with a plan and talking through that plan is going to be massive. Otherwise, you run the risk of putting yourself in trouble.
I have a question from the gallery for Ed. And by the way, if you have a question, you can send it to Bree, and then she'll ask me through the chat. But since we're on Ed, and this is kind of poignant right now, I want to ask about the construction of your roster moving forward and what you envision as it pertains to recruiting locally. I know Delta College right up the road has had a lot of very good players that have gone on to Division I, Division II. Not a lot of them have gone to Pacific. What's your philosophy on recruiting locally, and maybe even in particular looking up the road at Delta College when those girls are ready to go Division I?
Yeah, if I'm not frozen, then
you're good.
Okay. One of the first things I did within the first couple weeks is I sat down with the head coach at Delta, and I took her out to breakfast and just wanted to pick her brain. First of all, she's done so much for the women's soccer scene and the soccer scene period in the Valley. And she's great at what she does, and she's found so much success with that niche. And so I sat down right away, took her out to breakfast, talked to her about players, about the landscape in the area and the surrounding valley, and how she was able to identify and pull players, how we can work together and partner together in a lot of different ways to have the programs help one another out. And we came up with a list of some ways that we wanted to do that. So for me, I was a little bit late coming through the door to catch any of her kind of most recent players. So there are a couple, one's out to Fresno State. There are another couple out to some good solid Division I programs. So I think in the future, we've already have our eyes on some players there that
I'm giving him like the 10-second count to get up off the mat.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're good.
Yes.
Now you're back.
So I think just having a good pipeline there, I apologize, y'all, having a good pipeline there, an open line of communication so that it's a mutually beneficial relationship. I don't want to ever do anything just it's not how I operate, to just get something out of it. But I do think there are some ways that we can partner together and continue to raise the profile of the game in Stockton and in the Valley. And I think that would be mutually beneficial. And I think if we have the right player, am I still on? If we have the right, if we can get the right player, in the right circumstance, I think we want to win our backyard. We don't want players in the Valley, really good players from the Valley, to go elsewhere if we can help it. So I think that's a big point of, it's a big focus that I've challenged my staff with, is to win the backyard, is to make a dent and to keep good players home. So
cool. We're going to bounce back to Adam real quick. As far as scheduling goes, how does this work now? I mean, are you scheduling for 2021? Like what have you been told? And I know scheduling can be tricky in any sport, but what are some of the challenges you're facing right now?
Yeah, it went from a million miles per hour to like a dead stop. We all had our national schedules kind of figured out. We actually had a very, very regional based schedule for the fall of 20. So it didn't, the travel restrictions didn't necessarily affect us too much, but as it started to slowly, with a game here, a game there, there's just on the listserv that on the Division I listserv, there's just a million emails a day, people trying to reschedule because West Coast teams aren't going east, East Coast teams aren't going west. We even had Air Force on the schedule, and they travel by themselves in an Air Force plane. So, but they canceled the trip out here. So we were trying to get local games. It's disappointing for us. I think it's disappointing for the men's soccer community as a whole, because I thought we had a great schedule. Anytime you can get Stanford and Cal at home, you got to like it. We were going to Oregon State. We had Sac State coming here, so Santa Barbara potentially coming here. So we were excited about our schedule and the challenge that it would face us with. So right now, I think everybody's in a holding pattern. 21 is pretty much done, but what does 20 look like? Or I guess the fall of 21 is pretty much done, but what does the spring of 21 look like? And that'll be the challenge here as the NCAA comes out with more protocols for it, and then each respective conference does the same thing. So it'll be up to the conference, I guess, to determine how many games we'll play. Are we going to go to double round robin for a year to get in 14 games? Are we going to keep single but play local games? How many games? So we'll wait for those protocols to come out, and then we'll hammer home. I can envision the 21 season, the spring of 21 season, to be shortened to a certain extent, 12 to 14 games, maybe play 7 against our league opponents, and then try and get as many local games as we can. So we might still see some of those Power 5 teams here, and get the Big West and the WAC schools out here, and put our best against their best. So, but right now it's on hold.
Ed, I'm guessing you're kind of in the same boat scheduling wise.
Yeah, it was, there was a great meme floating around where it's just like scheduling was a guy just throwing up papers in the air like every week. And I mean, when I first got through the door in January, we worked really hard we were well short of a full slate of 20 games. And so I felt like just when we got to 20 games, people started canceling and it started getting really interesting. And so you'd work really hard to backfill, and then all of a sudden the next group would say, well, we can't come your way. And so you throw the paper up again, and you take a second, you yell out the window, and then you go find a backfill. And so I think like Adam said, we did a really good job of backfilling, and we had local games. We were only going to take one flying trip outside of conference play. So we had everything pretty well dialed in, and we actually replaced both those games on that weekend with local trips we could have driven to, but obviously all for naught, which is okay. But I think it'll be interesting to see how it shapes out. No one knows, because obviously no one's done our fall sport in the spring. So I think everyone's going to have to wait for some guidance. But in terms of 2021 and 2022, obviously there's already a lot of progress made on those. But this spring of 2021, as Adam was talking about, is going to be a little bit of a back to the drawing board and to see what we can kind of hammer out again.
I want to ask the student athletes about this too, because at least in my view, and having traveled for years with with the basketball team, I know that getting to go on the road and traveling to some of these places, playing in places where you may not have ever thought you would, is a big part of your experience. And I'll start with Erin. How much of a bummer is it, even if you do get restarted, if it has to stay regional, to not be able to go and travel and play in some of these places where you probably envisioned you might be playing when you went to Division I soccer?
We have some amazing regional teams around, so I think competition-wise, we'll be pretty well if we get to play pretty good off if we get to play in the spring. But yeah, it's a bummer. We have a lot of fun on the road, and we all look up to the calendars, and we put the dates on our calendars, and then the dates go by, and we're still, local, and it's pretty hard. But we're excited. We'll know we'll get to travel again soon. We're just counting down the days, I think. So.
Avery, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, essentially the same thing. I mean, locally, we've got excellent competition. Teams like St. Mary's, and I mean, in other conferences, you got Cal, who's close. Like Coach said, Stanford was going to come here too. So regionally, we won't have any trouble finding competition. But yeah, those trips abroad are always fun. I remember last year, the first big trip was over to Virginia, and that was just amazing because that was the first trip I had ever taken as a part of a college team.
Sure.
And that was just loads of fun, staying in hotels with your buddies and the focus being on soccer. And so those trips will be missed. But life moves forward, and we'll look forward to making those trips again.
By the way, just a little something about Avery. Literally puts the student in student athlete. I found out about this from your head coach. You came in as a Powell Scholar, one of 10 in your entire class to receive the award. Give us some background on that award. What does that mean?
Yeah, the Powell program is both a scholarship and like I said, it's a program. So it's not just something that they hand you money and you never see each other again. The 10 people who receive the scholarship, you're kind of put into a class together with the director, Dr. Courtney Lehman, and she teaches the course, and it just kind of outlines Powell principles and stuff like that. Like we have a series of 9 dimensions of the Powell Scholar and stuff like initiative, leadership, originality, stuff like that. So it's just another kind of community to be a part of, and the Powell program has led loads of stuff both overseas and here locally. We had a program where we taught, I personally wasn't involved in this, that was before my time, but they went over to a town in China and taught English for a couple months over the summer. They launched local food share things called the Vert de Vies project, where students came up with some kind of engineering, biological sciences co-op where they were growing foods for local food shares here in Stockton. And last year they launched this thing called Quest for the Test, where they were helping local high schoolers prepare for the SATs, with all of us being relatively successful at taking the SAT ourselves. So there are a few of us tutoring, a few of people giving lessons. So while it is an excellent scholarship, it's a lot more than that.
That's really, really cool. While I'm on the topic of academics, what was distance learning like for you, Avery? And then I'm going to ask Erin the same thing, but you get it started.
Yeah, it was difficult. I think a highlight of Pacific academics is the fact that our faculty to student ratio is what it is. You have so much communication and contact with your professors that really is a difference maker for academics. So being online was difficult not to have that person-to-person communication. Obviously, Pacific set up exceptional ways to contact your professors, and they were always really understanding of whatever your situation was, whether it was you didn't have great Wi-Fi or you weren't aware that they assigned something because Canvas was being strange or something like that. But it was definitely a transition, and it was difficult. And I think if you look at grades of students for spring semester, that you can see that some of us took a hit, and it's understandable, and the professors understood that. And I think with online learning this semester, they learned a lot from that last spring, but it's definitely more challenging than it was in person.
Erin?
Obviously, from my grammar choice earlier, I'm not a Powell Scholar, but going to a very strong academic school was extremely important to me. And I think that Pacific did a really great job of continuing that tradition of academic excellence, even though we were all spread across the the country and the world even. So they did a really good job of adapting quickly. And from the first 2 days of school we've had this year, they've stepped up their game even more over summer. So it was definitely a transitional period for us, but I'm really proud of the way our team responded, and hopefully we'll do just as well this semester as we did last semester. So excited for the day we can get back into the classroom, but for now, Pacific Women's Soccer I think is pretty solid in the virtual classroom too.
Totally. Just clean up that grammar, okay?
Exactly.
I've a question from the gallery. This is for the coaches. Ed, I'm going to start with you. How are you recruiting and deciding on offers right now without being able to see kids play, on top of figuring out your roster and who might be coming back for their extra year? So you kind of have two factors at play here.
Well, there's more than that for me, man. I still haven't seen our team play yet, so
right.
I've never.
So you got three factors at play for you.
There are many factors at play, but I still haven't seen our players play even in an intra-squad match, much less anything else. So, I mean, I have a good idea. I mean, we've all been doing this for a long time. I have a good idea just watching them train and do what they do during the spring. I would love to have some more time with them and obviously get some matches under their belt and my belt so I could kind of see them in that environment. But that hasn't happened yet. So for us, I think the first answer is first recruiting job was to recruit 2 great assistant coaches. So I was able to bring on 2 top-notch assistant coaches that bring a wealth of experience especially in the recruiting side of things. So I thought it was pretty remarkable that as a staff and those 2 assistants led the charge, but with no games going on, no way to bring people on campus, we were able to, we had 2 people that were verbally committed already to our program, but we went out and got another 6 recruited during that time where we couldn't see people play and we couldn't bring people on campus. So first and foremost, our staff did a fantastic job of leaning on relationships that they'd already formed. And what we did was we tried to kind of sift through and find people that we knew that would be a fit for Pacific, right? It just wasn't going to be a good player was automatically just going to come in. We had to go through our processes again and kind of cultivate.
He's coming back. I know it. Up.
How about now?
There we go. He's back.
So we really had to cultivate. Oh man, I think I'm back. But we had to kind of cultivate that list and to reshape it and to kind of boil it down to players we felt that we had previous relationships with, but would be a positive fit at Pacific. And so that was the first port of call. I think moving forward, I think we're now on time with our 2022 class. We're still actively, and we actually have offers out to 2021s. So really right now we are recruiting 2 classes right now at the same time. And we're managing it well because we have a very experienced staff. But that's going to all kind of play into the fact of who's going to come back, how much money are we going to have to both recruit new players, but also retain players that want to come back for that extra year to get that year back. So it's a moving target. It's a bit of a moving matrix, but we'll make it work. And I think every coach always has to find that balance between investing in moving the program forward and bringing in new, fresh blood, but at the same time being responsible to the promises and the relationships of players that are here now that are performing for your team, both in the classroom, both in the community and on the field. And you have to reward those players as best you can that are doing things the right way. So I think that's always a fine balance. Right, that we talked about earlier, but balancing that with did I lose? Are we okay?
You're good. You're back.
But at the same time, you can't only invest in the players that you have, because then you'll never be able to find the 2.0, 3.0 versions. So there's always a balance, but we'll do that through the recruiting. My assistant coaches have a great wealth of experience in all the regions, myself as well. So I think recruiting to Pacific is fun. It's a fun place to recruit players to. It's easy and it's exciting for us. So I think the future is bright, and I think we'll be able to attract new players and raise the level there for sure. No problem.
Adam, how about you with that question as far as having to figure out the recruiting and then figure out moving forward with this extra year now how your roster is going to be constructed and where your scholarships are?
Yeah, I mean, we'll juggle, as I mentioned before, with the compliance side, and they do a great job over there to assist us with navigating everything. I think the challenge was the class of 20, because the way the recruiting cycles work, everybody's out, their sophomore year, their junior year, really putting pressure and putting offers on the table. So as both Ed and I came in late, that was the challenge, was this class right here. And we were pretty much done before COVID broke out. We were trying to finalize a goalkeeper. Unfortunately, I lost him because I couldn't get him to campus as the NCAA put us on a dead period. So we were disappointed about that, but we're moving on to 21, and again, there's still a lot of questions, and the challenge is being upfront and honest with the recruits. I don't want to put an offer on the table and then have to renege on it because we're now bringing back this senior class who is choosing to return, and so I think the challenge will be for this year's seniors. I think there's going to be a lot of kids that are going to need to take a gap year and wait it out, because a lot of seniors will probably choose to go post back and play another year, or delay their graduation and play another year. So it's going to be interesting as we move forward here. But as Ed said, you have a staff for a reason, and Luis and Brian are doing a great job and pounding the pavement. And we have weekly calls, and it's still, my call to them to touch base with as many people as you can. Call coaches maybe you haven't reached out to in a while, and just ask, am I missing anybody? What do you have that maybe nobody knows about? Because we all haven't seen games since March. So you can't have camps, you can't bring kids on campus, and obviously there's no games going on, at least in our region. Although in other region, I know they're playing. So, but even those coaches in Division I can't get out there. I don't know why there's different rules for different divisions in regards to the dead period, and maybe COVID doesn't hit Division II coaches. I don't know, but they can go out and recruit right now, whereas we can't. But that's okay. As I said to my staff, that the health and safety is the most important thing of everybody. So we're just on the text and on the phone calls.
Kind of to the last point that you were talking about, Adam, I got another question here. The Big 12 just released a conference-only schedule today for women's soccer beginning on September 12th, where they'll be traveling and playing. What are your thoughts on some conferences moving forward with a season, and do you think that gives them an advantage if there's an NCAA tournament in the spring?
Look, I think we made the best decision from the WCC standpoint. I don't think it's worth risking anybody's health, and obviously we don't know the long-term effects of it. We had plenty of conversations as head coaches with senior staff, and I think to a T, most of the fall sport coaches from James with water polo to Greg to Ed and myself were in favor of making this decision, because we just didn't feel it's best for the student athletes and then ourselves and our staff. I don't if I'm on a plane going to Gonzaga and I'm coming home to my 3 young kids, is that the best situation that we want to put ourselves in? So for to each his own. I'm not going to lose sleep. Obviously, the Big 12 doesn't have men's soccer, but there are still conferences hoping to play back east. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I'm going to focus on us and what we can do to prepare and do what we can do here to improve every single day.
Ed? Same thing to you. Oh boy.
And then
There we go.
make a good point. Sugar. Okay, sugar. I'm back. So I think Adam makes a great point. We can only control what we can control. And I think we can't be hypocritical as coaches. I think we can't preach one message and talk to our players about the importance of some of these things and then turn around and not display that ourselves. I think at the end of the day, we have to focus on, oh no, you're smiling. Is it okay?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
All right. Every time you smile like that, Zach, I worry.
No.
So,
You're good.
I just think we have to control what we can control. And I think we have a responsibility to the people that are in our immediate sphere. So what other people decide to do and are able to do or decide is okay, like Adam said, to each his or her own. One thing I think that we did a great job of here at Pacific, and that started with Janet and, with the WCC, but also Janet, is we tried to take as much time as possible to make an informed decision. I think there were different ways you could have gone about this thing. And some people decided really early on that they were just going to shut it down no matter what. And they were going to stick to their guns. I think that we did a lot of open discussion. Sometimes when I heard Janet last week, right, where she said there are times where she just didn't know, and she had to stand up and say, hey, I don't know, because a lot of us had to do that. But one thing we did was throughout the whole thing was, we got information that we had, all the information we could possibly have, and the plans that we were trying to make. And what kept coming up time and time again was to try to keep the student athletes and the staff and the everybody safe. And that really was the paramount concern. And I think it got to the point where we just knew that in order to do that, that it meant that we couldn't do certain things. And I think like Adam said, everybody can live with that. I know that I can certainly look at my staff and my team and my family and say, look, as much as we all love this game and as much as we all want to play this game 24/7, not at the expense, even however remote the chances are. I mean, none of us want to have a staff member, or heaven forbid, a player or anybody that we know, have negative long-term effects or potentially fatal effects from COVID. And that is a very real possibility. It's that possibility for people worldwide. So there's nothing that we can do there's only very limited things that we can do about that to try to ensure the people's safety. And we will do all of that. But I just think first and foremost, that was the direction. That was everyone's primary concern. And I thought the Pacific and Janet and everybody related did a great job of trying to not make rash decisions on the front end, but tried to allow every opportunity for things to work. But I think we all made a collective decision that was in everyone's best interest. And I think everybody can talk to anybody. We can look everybody in the eye and say that was the right thing.
Sure. That makes total sense. I'm going to give the student athletes the last word here. And I know for me, there's things that I will never take for granted again in my life, having gone through this experience. As it pertains to soccer, can you kind of put that in perspective for you guys, and how you feel about maybe getting on a soccer field and playing as a team again, and not taking that experience for granted, and maybe give us some insight as to how much you're looking forward to that day when you can get back and play the game you love. I'm gonna start with Erin, and I'll end with Avery.
So obviously this is crazy times, everything's different. We've all been playing this game, I think, most of my team and the men's team, since we were 2 years old, every day, most days. So I think the hardest part for us has been not getting to step out on the field with our best friends. And you start to, I think, take for granted like the little things, like passing a ball when you get caught up in like those 7 a.m. lifts and the practices and stuff. But this whole experience has just been something we can all look back on and think, there was a time when we didn't have soccer and a time we never thought that was going to happen. So I think whether you have 1 year left, whether you have 2 years left, whether you have 3 years left, whether you're some of our freshmen who have never stepped onto a Pacific campus or a collegiate field at all, and you're just going to take the experience as like a whole different kind of appreciation. And I think we've been grateful in the past, but it's just going to be on a whole new level when we finally do get to play again. So
That's really well said. And Avery, last word to you.
Yeah, I think all the things that coaches and staff and other players tell you, that you really got to take this time for granted. I know our seniors at the fall of last season, they're talking about, oh, this is my last game. You guys really need to appreciate it because it goes quick. And I think that COVID has really given us an experience. It's really showed us how quick it goes. Going into the spring season, all of us were expecting to play a spring season, play some games, and we might dread early 7 a.m. and wake ups and trainings. But now that it has been taken away from us, we really do appreciate those 7 a.m. trainings. We wouldn't rather be anywhere else. We would rather be in our bed sleeping, because that's what we've been doing for the past 6 months. And we're done with it and we want to get back. So just appreciating everything that comes with this sport.
Totally. Feel you. And you guys have been great. Thank you all so much for for your thoughts and your contributions and just for being with us here today. And for those of you that joined, thank you, of course. Next week, there's no Tiger Talk. We're going to be back on September 8th. We're going to focus on the legacy and history of women's sports at Pacific. So some featured guests include former athlete, longtime senior administrator Cindy Spiro. So she'll be on the next one on the 8th. First women's scholarship recipient at Pacific, Glenna Carroll, who's also Pete Carroll's wife, the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, of course, and softball head coach Brian Colsey, the dean of coaches at Pacific. And we're going to have other guests too, and that's going to be in 2 weeks on September the 8th. So enjoy next week off, and we'll look forward to seeing you all again on the 8th. Be well and go Tigers. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.